Trump has started appointing his new wild and weird team and nominating people to cabinet positions and raising many questions and surprising a lot of people. People in cabinet roles will need to be approved by the Senate, but will likely pass with Republicans taking control of the Senate. Let's just go through a quick list of people who have so far been either appointed or nominated. So first we have Secretary of State Marco Rubio, which is equivalent to being the UK Foreign Secretary. He's a climate denier. He scores a 0 out of 100 from the Human Rights Campaign. The Environmental Protection Agency has been appointed by Lee Zeldin, an anti-abortion politician who also voted against gay marriage equality, and has almost no experience relating to the environment, and was quoted after his nomination by Fox News saying that he would prioritize unleashing economic prosperity through the EPA and pursuing an energy dominance approach, aka rolling back environmental protections. Then we have the United Nations ambassador pick, Elise Stefanik, a wild choice with no diplomatic experience. She says that the 2020 election was stolen. She blamed Nancy Pelosi for the January 6th attack on the Capitol, saying that the American people deserve to know the truth, that Nancy Pelosi bears responsibility as Speaker of the House for the tragedy that occurred on January 6th. Yes, okay. Homeland Security, Kristi Noem. I am going to give a trigger warning here. This involves the harm of animals. You may remember this story, but she's most famous for writing her book, No Going Back, where we think, in an attempt to be relatable to country folk, she admitted to murdering her puppy because it was untrainable. She described everything in detail in the book. She said she had failed to train the puppy, and instead of giving it up for adoption, she dragged it to a gravel pit and shot it, and then randomly also killed a family goat. She went into very weird detail when writing this book and described it with absolute glee. This is Donald Trump's administration, but let's get through the next ones quickly. So we have Ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee Sanders, a former governor who refuses to call Palestinian territories by their name and calls them by their biblical names, and has explicitly said Palestinian territories belong to Israel. I'm sure we're going to see plenty of peace in the Middle East. CIA Director John Ratcliffe has been appointed, who was previously ranked the second most conservative politician in all of Congress. We have the Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth. He's made headlines because he is a Fox News host. Yes, a TV show host who is he's a veteran. He also thinks that women shouldn't serve in the military. He has not served in any senior military or political position, has no defense background, and one defense lobbyist was even quoted saying, "Who the fuck is this guy?" Moving on to the next, we have the White House Chief of Staff, Susie Wiles. She's the first female Chief of Staff, which is an achievement. She is qualified for the role, but was accused of potentially being bribed to stay quiet when Trump was being investigated for mishandling classified documents. Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy, Stephen Miller, who was deeply tied to Project 2025. No red flags there at all. We have the new border czar, Tom Homan. He is seen as the father of the policy that separates migrant families from their children, and has said that he will conduct immigrant raids on workplaces all across America, something we can all look forward to in the news. The National Security Advisor is Mike Waltz, and the White House counsel has been named as Bill McGinley, but there's nothing really to say about these people. The Middle East envoy, Stephen Witkoff, a millionaire property mogul with no political experience, no diplomatic experience, has never served in office, high or low, and will be expected to broker peace deals in the Middle East without any knowledge or experience in the region. And lastly, onto the one that got the most headlines. The Department of Government Efficiency. Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy have been appointed to this department. And just in case you missed it, the acronym for the department spells Doge. Yes, Elon Musk has made his new job into a meme, a job which will involve making lots of cuts to government. And if his track record of Twitter/X, I absolutely hate calling it X, is something to go off, that means getting rid of all the guardrails for safety, getting rid of all the guardrails for accountability that protect people. Okay, that's a big list. So, Curtis, a wild ride. I actually think that potentially these big personalities actually working together directly might cause a lot of issues. I don't know. What do you think of the picks?
I don't think they're going to cause much issues because I don't think there's going to be a clash between these people. They're a bunch of yes people. So the idea that big personalities, they're all not going to get along because they're all there for their own ideas. They are beholden to the MAGA. Actually, no, I'll rephrase that. They're beholden to the agenda behind Donald Trump, which is Project 2025. That essentially the administration is a basket case of the worst political ideologies. Right, so you've got neoliberalism because they're going to cut taxes for billionaires, they're going to attack trade unions, they're going to implement austerity, of course, with the Doge uh, a department. It's essentially just going to be like a US version of Millet in Argentina. It's going to be really, really bad for the American people. But you've also got the Christian fascism. So domestically, it's going to be very bad for people. And then you've got the neocons, the neoconservatives. A lot of people think that Donald Trump is this America first guy. Rhetoric, of course, but that's not the case. This is going to be the same old establishment neocons. So you've got a mixture of the three worst things. You've got going to have America, which is still going to get involved with foreign wars. You're going to have an America that is a Christian fundamentalist fascist state. And then, of course, you don't even have economic populism. You're going to have neoliberalism. Um, okay, let's talk about a couple of them. I mean, Stephen Miller. Stephen Miller he is probably one of the most extreme picks. I think he said one of the latest rallies, one of the latest Trump rallies, is that America is just for Americans. Now, I'm sorry, but like that's it's pretty fascist. America, like many nations, is built on immigration, but like that signals to people that there should be no immigrants, legal or otherwise. He is extremely, extremely hardline on immigration. I think he was in Trump's administration early on in the first time, and he was
He
behind
was, yeah.
the Muslim ban. He was behind the zero tolerance policy, which broke families up. And he also purged people within the administration who weren't 100% loyal in the civil service. So he's extreme. Mike Huckabee, an extremely pro-Israel guy. I mean, you demonstrated there that he can't even bring himself to call Palestine Palestine. This guy is going to be the hardcore Zionist of the administration. So this
Mhm.
idea that JD Vance was pushing on the Joe Rogan podcast that Trump is anti-war, he's the peace movement, is a load of crap, and they're going to really upset the MAGA base because you heard it from the MAGA people. They were saying this is going to be an administration of peace. I'm sorry, but you've got Mark Rubio, another one. He's a massive neocon. He's a Zionist. He wanted military confrontation with Iran. He supported a coup in Venezuela. You've got Elise Stefanik, who you mentioned. She's another hawk. Mike Waltz. I mean, that guy is so horny for a war in China.
Mhm.
So essentially, he's lied to his base, just like he did in 2016. He said in 2016, famously, we're going to drain the swamp. We're going to drain the swamp. What did he do? He put a bunch of corrupt billionaires in the cabinet and warmongers. What's he doing this time? He's told the people, and JD Vance has told the people, this is going to be a different kind of government. This is going to be an American first government. This is going to be no more wars. And Joe Biden ramped up the wars. What's he done? He's filled it with billionaires, corrupt people, and neocons. He is the establishment. People need to get that in their heads. Donald Trump is the establishment. And it's going to be no different to what the establishment wants, which is neoliberalism and essentially a world police state from America. Nothing's changed.
Yeah, what's also funny as well with I've spoken to thousands, literally thousands of Trump supporters online since 2016, and the one thing that they constantly say is that he's peaceful, he had no wars, which when again is technically incorrect in so many different ways, and they
Mm.
forget his destabilizing policy from declaring the Golan Heights that belong to Israel, saying that East Jerusalem is the capital of Israel, and moving the American embassy
Mhm.
there. He did the strikes on the Iranian, was it the Iranian Guard? I can't remember, but
I mean,
he is massively destabilizing. If we can go
well,
back to the
his
Iran
drone
deal as
strikes back.
well.
People bring up Obama's record, and those of us on the left attack Obama because he was a hawk. He was
He
horrendous
was.
for foreign policy and many other things. But Trump did more drone strikes in the first couple of years than the entire Obama administration. You mentioned obviously about Israel and declaring that Israel had the capital was Jerusalem, or the capital of Israel is Jerusalem, of massively increasing tensions. And he also ripped up the Iran nuclear deal. I mean, the one good thing that Obama did was to have a deal with Iran where they gave up their nuclear weapons. That's a good thing, and Trump ripped that up.
Yeah,
So
There's another angle as well that I kind of want to go with this is that it's just something I've been thinking about. It's some people, analysts have talked about this for years as well, is that, but going to the EPA guy, I can't even remember his name now because that list was just literally so long. He's going to roll back protections. America, they've always been in this war of being the biggest economic power, always staying ahead, investing in everything from, the chips to AI to loads of other things. I can't see how after 4 years of a Trump administration, how they're gonna even get ahead of countries like China. Americans, especially Trump supporters, they have this notion that China is still a very poor country, that they're very backwards, that they have this. They obviously do have an oppressive government, but they think it is literally like 1984 when there's aspects of it, but it's not quite like the way that they see it. They don't realize that it's a very advanced country and a very wealthy country with amazing infrastructure, trains, transport, all of these types of things, and China is on path to get ahead of America. And the reason I'm bringing up this point is that we've always fought wars for hundreds of years, always resources, and it's usually energy related, right? Whether it's coal, whether it's gas, whether it's oil. Obviously, when we move into the green movement, hopefully we'll get there. That's not going to be the case anymore. It's going to be countries who have independence through green energy, who have all this amazing infrastructure. And what's going to happen to America when they've barely got any trains as it is? When they fall behind the green market, that's to me just going to be their economic ending. It's going to put them so far behind that they're going to spend so much time catching up. I don't think Americans realize how much they've kind of shot themselves in the foot, and how, in fact, to be, America the Great, you need to be investing in green energy to compete with
Yeah.
people like China.
I mean, there's a lot to unpack there, but you're absolutely right. Energy independence, that's always framed. We get it a lot over here, actually, and especially Reform have been talking about this, which is that energy independence needs to be bring back fracking, or we need to be digging up oil in our own country. Therefore, we're not relying on foreign oil. And obviously, what happened with Russia and Ukraine is massively pushed up prices. But obviously, yeah, we are undergoing a so called green movement. At least, I mean, I want us to. That's a fantastic way of energy independence. Imagine if our country invested in green infrastructure, in green jobs, and transformed our energy systems to renewables rather than relying on oil. You have no idea the benefits of it. We would be independent from everybody else, but also it will be incredibly cheap. It will get to the point that energy will be free. Obviously, there's a massive pushback from the oil industry, and people like Richard Tice, people like Trump, are all massively in the pocket of big oil. So they have an incentive to push for oil essentially because that's a money making machine. The big companies, the oil industry makes money off of it. There's no money to be made from the green industry. I would say in 20 to 30 years time, because this gets to the point where we can have an abundance of energy, wind, solar. These things are free to us, and they will eventually cost virtually nothing for the consumer. That is fantastic for the public good, not good for the oil industry. And I noticed that's sort of happening over here. I was watching a video from Trump actually earlier talking about China because he was talking about public transport. He's like, what we need to do is we need to get the very smart guy. I should stop probably doing the Trump impression, but um, he essentially wants to bring on a lot of entrepreneurs to invest in flying cars. That's what you're saying. He called it air automobiles. It's the same thing. We don't need to do that. We just need to invest in public transport. And who was the worst example of public transport or using an entrepreneur, shall we say, for getting people from A to B? It's Elon Musk. Right?
Yeah,
Elon Musk built the tunnels, the Tesla
Hyperloop.
the Hyperloop, thank you. What a terrible idea. We could just invest in infrastructure and public service, but no, 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 no. We have to make sure that everyone has to have a car. So he tries to compare his administration to what China can do. What he doesn't understand is that China invests in public infrastructure, right? Trump is a neoliberal free market capitalist, and those around him are also that too. They hate the state and they hate public investment. So the idea that he can make America in any way comparable to China is ludicrous because China will spend billions and billions of dollars on good quality public transport, something that America will never do, which is why they've talked about public transport for so long and they've never delivered. And now they're bringing people like Musk in, and oh, let's leave it to the market. Once again, it's a load of crap. Load of crap.
But yeah, obviously, we are left-leaning, more socialist people at Turn Left. That's what we're about. And obviously, there is an irony of us talking about how these markets are going to compete with each other, because ultimately, we don't like these systems, but obviously, we have to discuss them as they currently exist, and we're currently shackled by them. But my point essentially is that America will not be able to compete if their entire economy relies on oil. And it's as simple as that. They will not be able to compete. If you're a foreign investor wanting to go to open a factory somewhere, whatever it might be, if a country is running off of oil, and everybody else is on green energy, it's not going to be competitive.
But that's precisely why they. Sorry to cut you off, but that's precisely why establishment figures. It's just precisely why he's got Trump's got members of the cabinet being really hawkish on China, because they know this. They know that China is the West's competitor. They know
Mhm.
that China is a lot better at doing things, way better at industry. So instead of thinking of a solution to this, and not drumming up war, their solution is, we want to increase tensions with China. I forgot the person's name who I referred to earlier, who I said he's got a boner for for wanting a war with China, because they want to destroy China, because they want to keep the current system, which is dependent on oil. Massive corporations love that, and
Mhm.
they want to destroy China, and they want them to not be competitive in the market, which isn't very capitalist of them. It's very very much colonialism, which I suppose colonialism and capitalism sort of work together. But yeah, even if you were to be a traditional capitalist and say, well, we need to compete in the market, these people need to be screaming green energy, but it's a kind of an oxymoron for them, because they can't use uh, the market mechanism, which is something they so believe in. Because once we get to a transition to green renewables, obviously that's not good for capitalists, because they can't make money off it. I suppose we haven't spoken about Elon Musk, but
Yes,
obviously
Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy. What do you think of that?
well, first of all, I found it incredibly hilarious, and it's not my joke. I think it was Elizabeth Warren's joke that Musk is head of the Department of Government Efficiency. Was him and Vivek Ramaswamy. So it's not very efficient when you've got two people. That's that liberal joke, then and done. Um, but what is so incredibly funny about this is it's a Congo. It is literally a non-government organization. That's it. Trump has basically told Elon Musk and Ramaswamy to fuck off, because the role isn't that Musk has control over an actual department. It's literally just research. It's literally just fuck off for 2 years and come back with suggestions, and maybe I'll take them on board or not. It's so funny how all these people simp for Donald Trump, and he doesn't care about them. I think it's beautiful. To go a bit more serious here and a bit deeper, Elon Musk invests in Dogecoin, right? Why has Elon Musk been pushing this meme that you showed, the Doge meme? Why did he specifically call the Department of Government Energy? Sorry, the Department of Government. I've lost my words now. Efficiency. Why does he call it Doge? It's because he wants to push the value of Doge up. So it just shows this is all such a corrupt game. It's just a billionaire's cabinet.
Yeah,
That is why Musk is there.
I'm not sure how insider trading laws work with cryptocurrency. Obviously, in America, in the UK, in theory, if you have prior knowledge of something and you use that for your financial benefit, that's a federal crime. I don't know if it's
None of
protected
that
with
none of
cryptocurrency.
that matters, though. That's the thing. Now Trump's in power. None of these rules really apply. I mean, Trump's even ignored doing the transition, signing the ethics paper on transition, which is you have to uphold to certain ethics when you're president. He's ignored that from Joe Biden. So a lot of these things that, yeah, okay, fine, that's technically illegal. Do you think they care? No, they don't. I mean, obviously, he can plead. Musk can obviously plead ignorance as well. But I mean, I wholeheartedly believe that is there to push up the value of it so it enriches himself. But
Yeah,
the wider point is this is a cabinet of billionaires, just like last time, with a neocon foreign policy, which is no different than before. I mean, Carl Kalinske said on Twitter, he nailed it. He said Trump is George Bush with a spray tan. Domestically is more dangerous, but that's that. So again, I bring it back to the MAGA supporters who thought Trump was going to be different. He's played you. He's fooled you. This is complete and utter establishment politics. You've been played.
Also, as well, when it comes to the cuts that they're talking about and the Department of Efficiency, what frustrates me as well is that MAGA supporters have been convinced that the government should be run like a business, which I feel like there is some arguments there. I'm sure there are people of industry who can benefit things, right? We all supported the guy who runs Timpson's into coming to work for our prison system, right? And having that position there because it makes sense because
Right.
he's done so much work there. Stuff like that is fine. But when you've got people who are outwardly saying like the government needs to be run like a business, it's not a business. It's essentially, you know, in essence, it's a charity. It's a not-for-profit system. Obviously, you need to get bang for buck. You need to make
Mm.
sure that programs are doing what they're supposed to be doing and departments is doing what they're supposed to be doing. But their theory is that they just want to cut all that back. They're obviously they'll tweet out stuff. I can already see the future where Elon Musk is tweeting out saying, "I've identified 2,000 DEI officers across the federal
Mhm.
government and I'm going to be getting rid of them," or something along those lines. But at the end of the day, the government is supposed to provide services to people. So if you're looking at it like a businessman, it's all about profit. It's all about maximizing, the profit of that organization, which doesn't make sense because it's there to provide a service. It is not there to make a profit. And
Yeah.
on top of that,
Anyone that says that the government should be run like a business, you're an idiot, right?
Mhm.
Anyone who says that, ignore them. There's a reason why government isn't business, because business, they have their function in society, but the government isn't there to make a profit. It's there to do a service. I mean, I remember when someone pointed out years ago that in America, the post office doesn't make a profit. And they're like, "Oh, Trump's going to get in and he's going to slash things. He's going to make money again." It's like, you don't want that. I mean, the reason why that's so stupid is because there are some areas in the country that is very difficult to get to. And if it was run like a business, there would be no incentive for parcels to be delivered in places that is very difficult to get to because they don't see it as a money making thing. In fact, they would lose money on it. That's why you have government services. They're there to lose money in order to provide a service. And that's fine if budgets are in deficit. That often happens in government programs. But but the two things about that is, you can run a budget surplus in other areas of government, and that kind of pays for it, or um, you just allow things to run on a deficit because the government can handle it. That's why, I mean, small deficits are a thing because it just means you're pumping more money into the private sector. But yeah, anyone that says the government should be run like a business, do not listen to these people. Right? They have no clue what they're talking about.
Support independent media, support social justice that's there on social media. Thank you. Turn left.